Apartheid is a system which exists all over the world. We are just more covert. The apartheid system is dismantling itself, but the work is not even close to being begun because it's apartheid of the mind and soul.
This day our daily bread, and to the republic for which it stands. And by the power invested in me, I pronounce us ready to eat. Amen. Remember when Disney released a summer comedy about a lounge singer hiding from the mob in a convent, and it somehow became one of the biggest hits of 1992? A film that shouldn't have worked. A witness protection comedy where the entire plot violates federal law, turned into a cultural phenomenon that's still beloved 3 decades later. But behind those joyful gospel numbers and Whoopi Goldberg's infectious energy lies a production story filled with rejected stars, rewritten scripts, on-set gambling, legal battles, and enough Hollywood drama to fill its own movie. Today, we're counting down 28 weird facts about Sister Act that reveal just how chaotic, controversial, and absolutely miraculous this film's journey to the screen really was. From the A-list star who turned it down and immediately regretted it, to the secret script doctor who saved the movie, to the lawsuits, claiming everyone invented singing nuns first. This is the untold story of how a struggling production became a blockbuster sensation. Before we dive in, I want you to do something for me. Think about your favorite moment from Sister Act. Is it Dolores transforming the choir? The convent sneaking out to the bar? That final performance of Oh, Happy Day? Drop your favorite scene in the comments below. And if you're ready to discover secrets that will change how you watch this film forever, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, by fact number 12, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about this movie. Now let's get into the countdown, starting with number 28. 28. The real-life nun who inspired it all, Dolores Hart. Before Sister Act became the gold standard of lounge singer hides in a convent comedies, screenwriter Paul Rudnick decided he should probably do some actual nun homework. And not just any nuns. He wanted to meet the nun, Mother Dolores Hart. If that name rings a bell, it's because Mother Dolores wasn't just some random Hollywood starlet who found religion. She was the actress who gave Elvis Presley his first on-screen kiss in 1957's Loving You.
When I was about 17, I was in a film called Loving You.
By 1960, she was a breakout star of Where the Boys Are. Hollywood called her the next Grace Kelly. Then in 1963, she walked away from all of it and entered a cloistered Benedictine monastery in Connecticut. Rudnick traveled to Regina Laudes Abbey, stayed for 2 days, soaked in the rhythms of Abbey life, but never actually met her. The monastery's rules didn't allow for casual celebrity meetings. Still, her journey shaped the DNA of Sister Act, a glamorous performer trading spotlights for something completely opposite. Only Dolores does it to dodge bullets, not find spiritual enlightenment. And here's where it comes full circle. Decades later, when Victoria Clark was prepping to play Mother Superior in the Broadway musical adaptation, she finally met Mother Dolores, who gave her one note that transforms how you understand the entire film. Don't make her pious. God wants our humanity, not our divinity. To this day, Mother Dolores remains the only nun who is a voting member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Think about that. Somewhere in a Connecticut monastery, there's a nun filling out her Oscar ballot. 27. Bette Midler turned it down and immediately regretted it. Sister Act could have been a Bette Midler movie. Should have been, actually. Because back in 1987, screenwriter Paul Rudnick wrote the lead role specifically for Midler, even naming the character Terry Van Cartier. Disney loved it. Jeffrey Katzenberg called her, then called again and again. But Midler shut it down every time with the same excuse. My fans don't want to see me in a wimple. A wimple. That's the white cloth covering a nun's neck and chin. Bette Midler rejected one of the biggest roles of the 1990s because of a piece of fabric. When she passed, Disney panicked and basically went speed dating across Hollywood. Madonna was considered, imagine that alternate universe. Cher was considered, even Tracy Ullman was considered. At one point, they were rewriting the script so often it felt less like development and more like a casting roulette wheel that wouldn't stop spinning. The character's name kept changing with each potential star. Terry became different people, depending on who was reading it that week. Finally, the clouds parted, and Whoopi Goldberg stepped in, threw on the habit, and absolutely owned the role.
It was Bette Midler's movie, and Bette couldn't do it.
I'm a real genius. I'm a real genius. That's why we're packing them in. Years later, Midler admitted what the rest of us were thinking. She blew it. As she put it, Whoopi wore it all the way to the bank. God bless her, she was perfect for it. And considering the Sister Act movies pulled in hundreds of millions worldwide, that wimple came with some serious financial blessings attached. But don't feel too bad for Bette. She's a Broadway legend, a movie icon, and has more awards than most people have shelves. She's doing fine. She just has to live with the knowledge that somewhere in an alternate timeline, there's a version of her career with even more sequins and even more nuns. 26. They started filming without a finished script. Once Bette Midler bailed and Whoopi Goldberg signed on, Disney hit the panic button and gave the writers 2 weeks, yes 2, to rewrite the whole movie around Whoopi's style. Shockingly, that wasn't enough time to transform a Bette Midler vehicle into a Whoopi Goldberg comedy. But the studio had a release date locked in, so filming started anyway, even though the script was still being written. Director Emile Ardolino later summed it up perfectly. It's problematic to be shooting out of order, and then suddenly you come to a scene that hasn't been written yet. It was pure chaos. At one point, multiple heavy hitters like Nancy Meyers and Robert Harling were all tag-teaming rewrites during production like some kind of comedy emergency room. Pages were being delivered to set the morning they were supposed to shoot them. Actors were memorizing dialogue that might change by lunch. Can you imagine trying to build a performance when you don't even know what your character is going to say tomorrow or where the story is headed? That's not filmmaking. That's improvisational theater with a $31 million budget. And when the script started wobbling dangerously, Whoopi Goldberg didn't wait around for the studio to figure it out. She called in her own secret weapon. 25. Carrie Fisher was the secret script doctor. When the rewrites spiraled out of control, Whoopi Goldberg made a phone call that saved the entire movie. She called Carrie Fisher. Fisher came in as an uncredited script doctor to punch up Whoopi's dialogue and help wrangle the chaos behind the scenes. And this wasn't just tweaking a few jokes. She was helping Dolores sound like a real person, like Whoopi, instead of a character written for someone else 3 rewrites ago. So why don't you just give me the key to my room? I'll lay low. You stay out of my face, I'll stay out of your face. And I will commune my little black ass in that room. Can you handle that? That sounds like Whoopi because Carrie Fisher understood Whoopi's voice. Fisher had already established herself as one of Hollywood's go-to script doctors, quietly fixing films that audiences would never know were broken. She worked on everything from The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles to Hook to Lethal Weapon 3. She also became an unofficial diplomat on the production when tensions flared with Disney leadership. When studio executives and creative teams clashed, Fisher could navigate both worlds and find compromise. She spoke fluent Hollywood politics. Meanwhile, the original writer Paul Rudnick watched things veer so far from his vision that he asked to be credited under a pseudonym, Joseph Howard.
And he's not paying attention to me. He sat there, yawning and jiggling with his legs and looking at his program.
When a screenwriter voluntarily witness protects himself out of his own movie, you know things went sideways. Somehow, through patchwork rewrites and what had to be some kind of divine intervention, they pulled it off. Sister Act went from "we'll figure it out on set" to one of the most beloved comedies of the decade. But here's the question. Would it have worked without Carrie Fisher's invisible hand guiding the dialogue? We'll never know, but Whoopi knew who to call when the ship was sinking. 24. Kathy Najimy found her character on Entertainment Tonight. Kathy Najimy wasn't totally sure how she was going to portray such a bubbly, cheerful nun until she happened to catch anchor Mary Hart on Entertainment Tonight. She described watching Hart deliver an aggressively upbeat compliment on air and immediately thinking, "Oh my God, that's my nun." And once you know that, Sister Mary Patrick makes perfect sense. She's not just cheerful, She's a walking dopamine refill. Mother Superior is running the convent like a strict headmistress with Olympic-level side-eye. And Mary Patrick is in the corner acting like choir rehearsal is the most thrilling event in recorded history. Reverend Mother, on behalf of all the sisters here at St. Catherine's, I'd like to offer a great big hi there and hello to Sister Mary Clarence.
Reverend Mother, on behalf of all the sisters here at St. Catherine's, I'd like to offer a great big hi there and hello to Sister Mary Clarence.
Part of why she pops on screen is because Najimy had already built a career on character work that felt specific, sharp, and committed. Before Sister Act, she was well known in theater and comedy circles for The Kathy and Mo Show with Mo Gaffney, a sketch production that ran off Broadway and later became HBO specials. She'd already proven she could create big personalities without turning them into cartoons. And that's why Mary Patrick works. She's bubbly but grounded. She's joyful, but she's not dumb. She's the type of person who makes you laugh and annoys you at the exact same time, which is also how you know it's accurate. 23. Wendy McKenna didn't actually sing. One of the sweetest subplots of the movie is Dolores's efforts to bring the timid Sister Mary Robert out of her shell. Sister Mary Robert, could you come stand over here, please? I noticed that you're moving your mouth, but nothing's coming out, so I'd like to just hear you by yourself, if you don't mind.
I noticed that you're moving your mouth, but nothing's coming out.
We eventually realized that the soft-spoken sister can really belt one out. But it's not actually actress Wendy McKenna singing. She was dubbed by vocalist Andrea Robinson. Robinson is one of those studio singers Hollywood calls when they need a character to suddenly sound like they've been training for a cathedral concert their whole life. She's done voice work for Disney Animation and has quietly provided the pipes behind other on-screen performers for decades. And that's what makes the Mary Robert arc so satisfying. Wendy McKenna sells the fear, the posture, the timid energy, the please don't perceive me of it all. And then when the movie needs that breakout moment to land, Robinson's vocals make it soar. It's movie magic in the best possible way. Two artists combining their talents to create a performance that neither could deliver alone. 22. But Whoopi did all her own singing. Whoopi, however, did her own singing. All of it. The lounge act in Reno, the choir rehearsals, the big showstopper numbers. Every note that comes out of Dolores Van Cartier's mouth is Whoopi Goldberg. No dubbing, no ghost singer, no studio magic. And it wasn't effortless. She trained extensively with vocal coach Mickey Curley and vocal arranger James Ford to make sure she could carry those leads. This wasn't "we'll fix it in post" singing. This was legitimate vocal preparation. So when Dolores belts "I will follow him" in front of a packed church, that's not movie magic. That's preparation meeting performance. That's Whoopi Goldberg proving she could handle a musical comedy just as well as dramatic roles. It adds an authenticity to Dolores's character transformation. We're watching Whoopi actually improve her singing throughout the film, which mirrors Dolores actually teaching the choir. The growth is real on both levels. 21. Whoopi refused to promote the movie. Sister Act is a feel-good comedy about harmony, forgiveness, and finding your voice. But behind the scenes, harmony was in short supply. All that rewrite chaos we talked about earlier, it didn't end when they yelled "cut." By the time production wrapped, Goldberg's relationship with Disney was so damaged that when Sister Act hit theaters,
Whoopi Goldberg teases an update on the highly anticipated Sister Act.
She refused to promote it. No interviews, no press tour, no talk shows. She was silent. Think about that for a moment. Disney was about to launch a summer comedy about nuns singing soul karaoke, splashed with a little Ave Maria, and their lead actress wouldn't do a single interview. The studio must have been terrified. They'd already dealt with production chaos, script rewrites, and budget concerns. Now their star was ghosting the entire publicity campaign. Close your eyes. Visualize yourself in a room full of people. Lots of silverware, people dropping stuff, talking loud, drunks, women with trays going, "What are you going to have?" And then the movie exploded anyway. Sister Act became one of those rare hits that didn't need the full Hollywood promotional machine. Audiences showed up, word of mouth spread. The soundtrack climbed the Billboard charts and stayed there for over a year. Imagine if Whoopi had actually promoted the thing. They might have had to build a second Disney vault just to hold all the money. Nothing heals studio tension like a 9-figure box office run. 20. Nuns ordering room service while watching inappropriate TV. During the shoot, Kathy Najimy and Wendy McKenna decided to order wine and fries to their hotel room from room service while still in their habits. Before the order arrived, Kathy insisted that Wendy sit on the bed transfixed on the television, which was tuned to an adult channel, so they'd get a reaction out of the waiter. Can you imagine being that room service employee? You knock on the door expecting a normal delivery, and instead you walk into what looks like a convent crisis. 2 nuns, in full habit, one staring intensely at the screen while the other casually orders wine like it's communion. All went as planned until Wendy could no longer contain her laughter and lost a $100 bet with Kathy. That's the kind of chaos that happens when you put actors in costumes for weeks at a time. The line between character and reality gets delightfully blurry. 19. The casino gambling nuns. And then there's the Reno casino portion of the story, which is basically the most 1992 thing imaginable. The production spent time filming in a Reno casino, which the actresses loved. Najimy said, "That was great because I love gambling."
Back to you tenfold, thanks.
Hurry up. Hurry up.
I love this song.
She also revealed that Wendy McKenna smokes, and they'd sit at the blackjack table in their nun outfits with drinks in front of them, in full costume, smoking, sipping, gambling like the Vatican opened a lounge. Imagine you're a regular person in Reno trying to have a simple, irresponsible night, and you look up and realize you're losing money to a nun with a cigarette and a cocktail. That's not a vacation memory. That's a confession waiting to happen. The casino security cameras probably have footage that looks like the world's most confusing undercover operation. 18. Whoopi became the highest-paid actress in Hollywood. After that whole production mess, Whoopi Goldberg turned it into leverage and became the highest-paid actress in Hollywood. When Disney came knocking for Sister Act 2, they offered Whoopi somewhere between $7 and $12 million. A massive payday at a time when most leading actresses were lucky to crack $2 or $3 million per picture. Suddenly, she was out earning everyone. Tom Cruise had just made $12.5 million for A Few Good Men that same year.
A Few Good Men.
Yes, sir.
What in the world was that experience like? How?
And was considered the gold standard. Whoopi was playing in the same league as the biggest action stars in the business. As she put it herself, "I'm the highest-paid woman in the history of making movies. It's a nice little kick. It's a nice thing to throw out at dinner parties, and you take one look at me and you go, 'What?' But she didn't just cash the check and call it a day. She used it as leverage. 17. She used her sister, act money to get Serafina released. Whoopi had a passion project, Serafina, a musical drama about South African students rising up during the 1976 Soweto uprising. She reportedly became the first Black American actress to film a project in South Africa. No Hollywood studio would touch it. It was too heavy, too foreign, not enough star power. So it got made independently overseas. Then Sister Act became a monster hit. Disney wanted that sequel desperately, and Whoopi saw her opening. She told Disney, "You want me back in the habit? Then you're giving Serafina a real U.S. theatrical release." Disney agreed and put the film in American theaters. Serafina wasn't a box office smash, but it got seen. It got distributed, and it happened because Whoopi understood exactly how much clout a 9-figure comedy buys you. That's how you play Hollywood. You don't just take the money, you use the power that comes with it to open doors that were previously locked. 16. Mark Shaman turned pop classics into gospel hits. Let's be honest, the idea sounds ridiculous. Take pop and doo-wop classics, run them through a choir of nuns filter, and hope audiences don't riot. But Mark Shaman, the movie's musical mastermind, pulled it off. Shaman had been arranging music for television and major artists before stepping into film scoring, and Sister Act let him flex every single skill he had. He took songs that had no business being sung in a church and made them feel like they'd always belonged there. The arrangements somehow hit the sweet spot between reverent and playful, holy enough for a convent and funky enough for a Reno lounge. My Guy became My God. I Will Follow Him became a hand-clapping showstopper. Hail Holy Queen got a doo-wop breakdown that had no business working as well as it did. And the finale version of Shout, originally an Isley Brothers track from 1959, turned into a full congregational celebration. The soundtrack didn't just chart, it stuck around. The album spent 54 weeks on the Billboard 200, earned a gold certification, and became one of those records that lived in people's homes whether they owned the movie or not. 15. They performed the songs live at a fundraiser. And here's the part that proves Sister Act became a cultural moment. Later, in 1992, Whoopi Goldberg and several of the film's nuns were invited to perform at a fundraiser in full habit, doing the choir numbers from the movie. Not a premiere, not a press junket, a fundraiser, like they were a touring act. That's when you know a movie crossed over, when fictional nuns start getting booked for real events. 14. Harvey Keitel's extremely confusing Nun-Filled, 1992. In 1992, Harvey Keitel made 2 movies about nuns, and somehow they could not have been more different. In Sister Act, he played Vince LaRocca, a Reno mobster whose entire romantic arc involves ordering a hit on his girlfriend.
I did that today, First Beat. I told Father Antonelli I was in love, and that it was a special love.
Keitel spends the film stomping around casinos with the energy of a man who cannot believe he is losing his ex to a convent choir. He's menacing enough to be a credible threat, but just cartoonish enough to fit inside a Disney comedy. At one point, his own henchmen refuse to shoot Dolores because she's dressed like a nun. "I can't, Vince. She's a nun." And Vince has to stand there, completely exasperated, trying to explain that habits don't come with divine protection. Then there was the other nun movie. That same year, Keitel starred in Abel Ferrara's NC-17, Bad Lieutenant, a brutal gut punch of a film that's the complete opposite of a feel-good Disney comedy. Martin Scorsese later called it one of the best films of the entire decade. One movie has choir rehearsals and inspirational makeovers. The other is basically a man destroying himself for 96 minutes while Catholic guilt watches from the corner. 2 nun movies, same actor, same year, wildly different vibes. Harvey Keitel contained multitudes. 13. Keitel almost quit when Whoopi was cast. Here's the thing. Keitel was cast in Sister Act when Bette Midler was still attached to the project. When Whoopi Goldberg came on board, the producers offered to buy out his contract and recast the role. He declined and decided to stay with the picture. Maybe he saw something in the material. Maybe he just wanted to show some range. Either way, it's a fascinating choice. Staying with a project that fundamentally changed from what you originally signed up for. 12. The movie became a Broadway musical. Sister Act didn't stop at being a hit movie and a VHS monster. It turned into a full Broadway musical because once Hollywood hears built-in audience, it starts humming show tunes. Sister Act opened on Broadway in 2011 and received multiple Tony Award nominations. Unfortunately for them, it was also the year the Book of Mormon took the Tonys by storm and basically treated the entire award season like a victory lap. But the show still made noise, especially because it introduced a lot of theater audiences to Patina Miller. She originated the role of Dolores on stage and became one of the breakout stars tied to the musical's success. It wasn't just the movie, but live. The stage version became a major spotlight moment for her as a leading lady. 2 years later, she won the Tony for Best Actress in a musical for Pippin. Sister Act didn't just adapt a movie, it launched careers. And here's the full circle twist. When the show went to London's West End, Whoopi Goldberg made a limited appearance, but this time she played Mother Superior. So she came back like, "I already did the fun part, now let me stand here and judge everyone." Which is honestly the most Whoopi possible way to revisit your own franchise. 11. The nuns are technically wearing the wrong habits. In Sister Act, The sisters proudly identify themselves as Carmelites, which is a problem because not a single habit on screen is actually Carmelite. The Carmelite order is contemplative, cloistered, and quiet. Lots of prayer, lots of silence, and very little time for chasing down mobsters or turning the neighborhood choir into a Motown revue. If actual Carmelites saw what these movie nuns were up to, they'd need a second vow just to process it. The habits the actresses are wearing look a lot more like the outfits of the Sisters of St. Joseph of the Third Order of St. Francis. A name so long, it sounds like a tongue twister invented by a very tired seminarian. That's probably why the filmmakers just went with Carmelite. It's shorter, cleaner, and nobody's pausing the movie to Google religious orders. Sister Mary Robert wearing a different habit is accurate, though. She's not a full nun yet. She's a novice. And when she takes her final vows, she'll wear a full habit. The habits weren't accurate overall, but in a movie where witness protection apparently means join a choir and perform on live television, wardrobe authenticity barely cracks the top 20 things you're asked to just go with. 10. The $31 million movie that made $231 million. Sister Act cost $31 million to make. Modest by early 90s standards. Then it went out and made $231.6 million worldwide. In summer 1992, the film held the #2 spot at the domestic box office for 4 straight weeks. Look at what it was competing against: Lethal Weapon 3, Patriot Games, Batman Returns, explosions, espionage, and superhero budgets. And then Sister Act just strolls in with harmonies and a habit. Domestically, it pulled in $139.6 million, making it one of the top-grossing films of the year. For context, that's more than A League of Their Own, more than Wayne's World, more than films with much bigger budgets and marketing campaigns. 9. It was the most rented VHS of 1993. Then home video turned it into a household takeover. After Sister Act crushed it in theaters, the VHS dropped in November of '92 and quickly became the crown jewel of every blockbuster wall. It was the most rented VHS of 1993, which means an entire nation spent a full year fighting over one plastic brick of joy, and half of them returned it without rewinding like criminals. In an era when your weekend plans depended on whether someone returned a tape with a paper sticker, Sister Act reigned supreme. 8. Everyone sued Disney, claiming they invented singing nuns. Sister Act was such a massive hit that suddenly everyone decided they'd invented the idea of a singing nun. Disney barely had time to enjoy the box office before the lawsuit started. On June 10, 1993, Donna Douglas, better known as Ellie Mae Clampett on the Beverly Hillbillies,
Donna Douglas, known as Ellie Mae Clampett of the Beverly Hillbillies, had also starred in a number of films.
And her partner Kurt Wilson filed a $200 million lawsuit against Disney, Whoopi Goldberg, Bette Midler, their production companies, and Creative Artists Agency. They claim the movie was plagiarized from the book A Nun in the Closet, which they owned. Douglas and Wilson said they developed a screenplay for the book in 1985 and submitted it to Disney, Goldberg, and Midler 3 times in 1987 and 1988. They also claimed the movie contained more than 100 similarities to their material. In 1994, Douglas and Wilson declined a $1 million offer to settle the case. The judge found in favor of Walt Disney Pictures and the other defendants. Wilson stated at the time, "They would have had to copy our stuff verbatim for us to prevail." And that was just the opening act. 7. The second lawsuit for $1 billion. In 2011, Harlem nun Dolores Blakely sued.
I am Queen Mother Dr. Deloise Blakely. I'm the community mayor of Harlem.
Disney and Sony for $1 billion, claiming the movie and the Broadway musical stole her life story. She pointed to her 1987 autobiography, The Harlem Street Nun, about her work as a young black nun using music to help disadvantaged youth. Blakely said she'd sent her book to a producer who later worked on the film. Disney said no connection existed, and the New York Supreme Court agreed and dismissed the case with prejudice. 2 lawsuits, 2 losses, 0 damages, and unlimited confidence that singing nun was such a rare concept it could only have come from them. 6. The witness protection plot would never happen. Now let's be clear about something. The entire premise of Sister Act falls apart the second you apply even a teaspoon of real-world logic, and that's part of why it works. In the actual U.S. Witness Protection Program, marshals don't shove witnesses into Catholic convents and tell them to blend in. That's not a relocation strategy. That's a setup for a true crime podcast. Real witness protection is about anonymity. You get a new name, a forgettable apartment, maybe a job at a hardware store somewhere nobody's ever heard of. What you don't get is a featured spot in a choir that ends up performing on national television. WITSEC specifically avoids tight-knit communities because people notice outsiders. Dolores might as well have walked in wearing a sequin jacket that said, "Ask me about my past." 5. It's against federal policy to hide witnesses as clergy. It's also against U.S. government policy to hide agents or place witnesses in identities posing as members of the clergy, Peace Corps, or reporters, and members of the media. Individuals in these professions are considered particularly vulnerable, and doing so would put them at risk as a whole group. The filmmakers knew all of this, of course, but acknowledging reality would have killed the movie. There's no comedy in Witness relocates to a strip mall in Ohio and sells insurance quietly for 3 years. So instead, everyone just went along with the idea that federal agents thought, you know what'll keep her safe? Bass solos and a television appearance. None of it makes an ounce of sense. But Sister Act leaned so hard into the absurdity that you stop caring. It's not even remotely realistic, but it's absolutely fun. 4. Maggie Smith was already a dame. By the time Maggie Smith played Mother Superior, she was already Dame Maggie Smith.
Think of it this way, Reverend Mother. She's an ideal prospect for rehabilitation.
That is not a person you can hide. That is a conspicuous person.
Having been appointed Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in 1990, which means technically, everyone on set should have been calling her Dame Maggie. But she's famously low-key about her titles and honors, preferring to just be called Maggie and do the work. Her performance as the strict, no-nonsense Mother Superior is perfection, the exact counterbalance needed to Whoopi's chaos. Every disapproving look, every clipped line, every moment of barely concealed frustration is a masterclass in comedic timing. 3. The Pope loved it. Sister Act received an unexpected endorsement. Pope John Paul II reportedly enjoyed the film. Vatican officials indicated that the Holy See appreciated the positive portrayal of religious life and the message of redemption and community. For a movie that definitely takes liberties with how convents work, that's a pretty solid stamp of approval. 2. It inspired real church choirs. After Sister Act's release, churches across America reported a surge in choir membership, particularly among younger people who wanted to sing like the sisters in the movie. The film's blend of traditional hymns with contemporary arrangements inspired actual church music programs to modernize their approaches. Some parishes started incorporating gospel and soul elements into their services. Sister Act didn't just entertain, it actually influenced real religious communities. 1. The sequel introduced the world to Lauryn Hill. Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, wasn't as successful as the original, but it introduced moviegoers to a young Lauryn Hill, who absolutely stole the show with her performance of Joyful Joyful.
Whoopi Goldberg and the cast of Sister Act 2 reunite on The View. Ralph, who played singer Lauryn
Hill's stunning vocal performance in that film came years before she'd win 5 Grammy Awards for the miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
And the album of the year is The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
The sequel became a launching pad for one of the most important artists of the 90s, which means Sister Act's legacy extends beyond just the original film. It's part of the origin story of a music legend. Where are you watching from? Before we wrap up, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Are you in the United States, where Sister Act became a cultural phenomenon? The UK, home of Dame Maggie Smith, or somewhere else entirely? where this movie found an audience. Drop your location in the comments below. I love seeing how far these classic films have reached. Your thoughts? Now I want to know, which of these 28 facts surprised you the most? Did you know about Carrie Fisher's secret script work? Were you shocked that Bette Midler turned it down? Had you heard about the lawsuits? And here's the big question. Do you think Sister Act still holds up today? Or is it purely a 90s time capsule? Cast your vote in the comments. Type "Still Perfect" if you think Sister Act is timeless and works just as well now as it did in 1992. Type "Pure Nostalgia" if you think it only works because of 90s memories. Type "Needs a Reboot" if you think it's time for a modern remake. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Sister Act, smash that like button and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories from your favorite classic films. And if you want to see more facts about 90s comedies, let me know in the comments what movie we should investigate next. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most chaotic productions create the most beloved films. Sister Act shouldn't have worked, but it did. And 3 decades later, we're still singing along.